Stay tuned for an exclusive interview with Breagh Isabel. We're here today with Breagh Isabel. Breagh, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Breagh, when you're out touring the world, going like to Germany or to UK, what are some things that you miss most about home in Cape Breton?
I think being on the road is, a lot of fun, and there's lots of amazing things about being on the road, but one of the things I miss is definitely having like a kitchen and being able to cook your own food, because depending where you are, like in rural Canada, even in lots of places, rural Ontario, the really only option is, like bagels and chips and really fast food. So I think like being able to cook some nice meals and make a smoothie and make my own coffee, all of that is what I miss the most.
Yeah,
but you know what? It's a good trade-off. On the road, home time, it's good to have a mix of the two.
Definitely, and I mean it's good to get some good fuel into your body, kind of before performing, before going. But you also need some fun food, right?
Yeah, you need some McDonald's every once in a while.
So, Breagh, do you have any like inspirations, like musicians that kind of inspire you? And I guess what is it about those musicians that you really appreciate?
Yeah, I think my first musical inspiration was Joni Mitchell. And I wouldn't say we have like a similar style or anything, but I'm just such a big fan of her songwriting and her musicianship. And as a piano player, when I first heard some of her compositions and the key changes and the piano voicings, they were really advanced and really beautiful. And Joni Mitchell was probably one of the reasons why I started to want to write my own songs, was hearing her songwriting and being really impacted by that emotionally and wanting to see if I could do something similar.
Wow, that's awesome, yeah. And like nothing beats a good old key change, right?
Oh,
So growing up in Cape Breton, you must have just been incredibly immersed in music, and there's so much culture, so much heritage, so much Celtic music in Cape Breton. So how did that impact your music and your songwriting today?
I've thought about that before, and I think I definitely don't play traditional music, and listening to the music I make, I don't think people would necessarily recognize that I'm from Cape Breton, but growing up there, you can't help but be influenced by that musical culture. And I think for me, especially the songwriting culture, there's just such a strong tradition of really great songwriters, just even continuing to this day. There's just something about the musical world there that makes folks want to write songs, I guess. And growing up listening to like the Rankins and Hynes and of course Gordie Sampson, and there's just been so many creative, inspiring folks from that part of the world that even though my music is more pop and maybe doesn't sound like that, I think the songwriting tradition is what I draw the most kind of inspiration and influence from, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And so, I mean, with, you just released your first solo song, Girlfriends, which, the writing, you can tell, is just, it's so impactful and it's so moving and,
Thank you.
Drawing from that inspiration. So when you were writing that song and, just the first stages and getting that done, did you realize at the time that it would get as much attention as it did now, today?
Oh, that's very nice. I mean, every time you write a song, it's kind of like your new favorite song. Like, I feel like every time I write something that I like, I'm very excited for a period of time, and you think this is the best thing I've ever written. But I write so many songs, and every artist writes so many songs that you write it and you're excited, and then you write a few more songs and you kind of forget about it. But you always hope that the stuff you write will resonate with folks, and your story will resonate with folks, and they'll be able to find themselves in your song and your experience. So I'm just so happy that that was the case with this song.
Okay, and so I guess when you're writing music, is there a specific procedure or a routine that you kind of do?
Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of different every time, especially when you're co-writing and collaborating with other artists. Like, everyone has a different workflow, but for me, I like to usually start with a small idea, and my voice memo folder on my phone is very, very jam-packed with lots of terrible stuff, but maybe some good ideas. And anytime I think of like, oh, this is an interesting chord progression, or this is an interesting thought, I'll mess around for a minute on guitar, on piano, and try to record it and capture it. So then when it does come time, when I have a day where I say solo, I want to write today, I'm going to try to start a song or finish a song, or I'm going into a room with 2 other people and we want to write a song. I know I have some sort of tools in my tool belt of ideas that might be the start of something. So we're not just, sitting in a room, banging our heads against a wall, trying to figure out something to write about. So that's my process. Usually stockpile some ideas so when the time is here, you're ready.
Yeah, and like it's important, to have kind of those things to start you off, because you just sit in the studio and you're like, okay, so what do we do?
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta have some ammo.
So when you were first beginning your career, Breagh, were there any hurdles that you faced, and how did you kind of overcome those hurdles?
Yeah, I mean, the music industry is definitely, it's a tough, especially in the pandemic. The past few years have only made it even more so. But I feel just so lucky to have always been surrounded by folks who really kind of were okay to take me under their wing and show me the ropes and support me. And I think that says a lot about the music world here on the East Coast especially. There's lots of folks, if you look around, there's lots of folks willing to kind of give you a leg up and share their knowledge and their advice and their insights if you're willing to work hard. And if you're a good person, I think just kind of look around and see who else is out there doing what you want to do, and don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, I feel so lucky to have so many mentors. So I always try to impart that to younger artists that I work with and say, like, anytime you need a listening ear or advice or feedback on a song, like, reach out, because I try to pay it forward as much as I can.
Oh, that's amazing. And so you talked about you had lots of mentors in your life who kind of pulled you in and roped you into the world of music. One of those first people were your father. So what was, he's folklore professor at the University of Cape Breton. He's a part-time musician. So I guess, how did he have an impact on your musical journey?
Oh, that's a nice question. Well, in my studio in Halifax, I have a picture on one of my speakers, and it's me. I'm about this big, sitting on my dad's lap, and he's playing piano. And I always look at that and feel thankful to have had parents who really loved music, A, and always had music around, and B, supported me when I said, I think this is what I want to do. They didn't blink an eye, and they really kind of, gave me the tools I think I need to pursue that and try to make a career out of it. But yeah, my dad is a big influence. He's probably one of the reasons I started writing songs too. He wrote songs growing up and played lots of amazing covers by artists that inspired me to say, oh, I want to try my hand at this. But yeah, definitely lucky to have supportive parents.
That's amazing. And so, I guess another mentor that you had going through high school was your music teacher, and her name was Monica McNeil. So
yeah.
What did Monica McNeil, what traits or qualities did she have that helped you and shaped you into your career?
Sure. Well, Monica, I can't say enough good things about Monica. I mean, I think what was really inspiring to me about her and the high school music program at Riverview High School, where I went to school, was that it was so different from the typical sort of conservatory education style in music. So instead of, I had done RCM, Royal Conservatory training growing up, and instead of that approach, very by the book, learning your theory and your scales and all of that, Monica was very much like, yeah, it's important to have that foundation, but we're gonna, put you folks in group and have you writing your own songs and recording them and playing in rock bands and playing in folk bands, and it was a definite dose of the real world music scene and music industry, on top of the sort of more classic education music style of music education. So that just really kind of blew my mind, and getting to go to school and play music with your friends and write music and learn from her was definitely a big growth opportunity. And yeah, she was one of the reasons why I went to music music school for university and really went down this path was Monica.
Wow, and that's amazing. I love how instead of just, sitting in front of the classroom, learning the theory, this is a C, this is a C major chord, whatever.
Yeah.
You guys actually were like putting together bands and doing stuff like that's the stuff of impact. That's the stuff, yeah, it's amazing.
Definitely.
So I guess before becoming a solo artist, you worked with the band Port City as well as Classified and many other collaborators. Collaborating is kind of a different field to solo writing. After doing all these collaborations and working with these artists, what do you think, in your opinion, is the key to having a successful collaboration?
That's a great question. For me, when I'm collaborating with other artists, well, I try to just always work with people that I'm a fan of and like what they're doing, because then it's so much easier, right? But yeah, I guess when I'm in a room and I know I'm writing for this other artist or working with Classified, let's say, I just try to kind of let them shine and figure out what is it that they want to say and how would they say it, and basically just treat my skills and myself as kind of like icing on the cake. Like I'm just there to kind of support them and help them tell their stories, and find a way that what I do can fit in with that and support that, instead of sort of, sometimes when you have two really distinct musical personalities, it can be hard to find a cohesive collaboration sound that makes sense, I guess. But yeah, I guess I just always try to figure out who the artist in the room is that I'm there to support, and then add my flavor in whatever way I can.
Oh my, I love that, Amazing. So I guess when you're collaborating and, you have to build songs and kind of take pieces from everyone, kind of like you said, is there any danger perhaps of, the individual artist losing a bit of identity or a bit of kind of who they are?
Yeah, I've thought about that definitely in the past. I think certain writers and artists that you work with just have a super inherent, unique sound, and it is them, no matter what setting they're in or what style of music they're playing, you're always going to recognize that person, whether it's the voice or their, style of phrasing or lyrics, whatever. But I think for some folks, like, I feel like I'm a bit more of a musical chameleon. Like, I like all kinds of different styles of music, and I like to play all kinds of different styles of music. So for me as an artist, it was definitely about finding the folks who are good collaborators for me, in that they kind of do what I do for other artists, and like seeing what is it that I want to say and what's unique about me, and trying to support that. But yeah, it is interesting. There's always an interesting combination that comes with getting different musical personalities in a room and seeing what comes out.
I love that. Breagh Isabel, the musical chameleon. It's like the greatest analogy ever of all time.
I try to be anyway. I don't know.
And I mean, you're successful at it. So when you went to university to take a Bachelor of Music and at St. FX, so I guess throughout your time at that university, you really kind of played festivals and different events around, and that's really when you kind of decided that music was, the path for you. At one point, I guess, did you realize that, music was more than just a passion for you?
Yeah, it was definitely while I was at university and getting my degree under my belt and really diving into jazz, like as far as the theory side of things and really understanding music. That was a deep dive for 4 years, which was a great musical foundation to then build from. But during that time, I was also, like you said, playing songwriter circles and playing in people's bands and doing my first showcase at ECMAs and all of that stuff. And yeah, I think I just kind of fell in love with performing and with writing for other artists and the craft of songwriting. So it was during that time that I kind of had to decide, like, do I want to go on and do a BEd and teach, or do I want to kind of follow this crazy road for a little while and see where it takes me and see if I can make a go of performing and writing. And luckily so far it's worked out pretty well. But I'm super grateful to have had the opportunity to go to university and study and really get that solid foundation.
So So after doing your internship kind of down in Nashville, you've kind of experienced kind of the music industry down in the United States. What is the difference between the music industry there and the music industry here in Canada?
Well, there's a lot of differences, but I think the first thing that popped into my head is like scale. You know, the U.S. is 10 times bigger roughly than Canada, so there's just so many, and I think Nashville is a good example. Like everyone there it's a music city, so many folks there are songwriters and producers and artists, but as far as scale goes, yeah, there's just more people doing the music thing and more, obviously more opportunities as far as an audience to sell your music to. So I think that's why so many folks try to break into the U.S. But with that being said, Canada is smaller, and we are so lucky to have huge support for music, regionally on the provincial level. Like there's amazing funding opportunities. On the national level, we have Factor, we have CBC, great national radio play. And some of those opportunities, when my American friends hear about those, they say, oh, we wish we lived in Canada, because they don't have that sort of funding model down there. And we're very lucky to have that support. So it's nice to see a little bit of what's going on down in Nashville and in the U.S., but I think I'll always stay based here on the East Coast, because we're lucky to have that support for sure.
That's amazing. And even being here, seeing all the friendly faces, and everyone wants to say hi to you here at the East Coast Music Awards, just such a great culture up here in Canada.
Big family for sure.
Big family, yep. So, Breagh, you've done many kind of interviews in your career. What is one question that you wish that, I guess, an interviewer would ask you?
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, it's always nice to talk about your songs and your music and your artistry and what you're trying to get across. But I really do enjoy questions about like who influenced you and why did you get started, and even specifically you pointing to Monica McNeil. Like that's not something I really get asked about in many interviews. So it is nice to kind of think about who are the people behind the artists you love that help make them who they are, and Monica's definitely one of those folks. So yeah, great. I appreciate those questions.
Awesome. So just kind of one final question. So you've done some work with Music Counts, correct?
Yes.
So they've actually helped sponsor us to go to the Juno Awards this year, which is awesome.
Congratulations.
So what kind of have you done, and what has Music Counts kind of done for you in your career?
Music Counts is another one of those behind the scenes figures that most people might not know about, but when you dig a little deeper, they've supported so many students and artists across Canada. But Music Counts, when I was studying at university, I received a scholarship from them called the Fred Sherratt Award, and it was absolutely amazing. It obviously helped pay for some of my schooling, but I also got to go to Toronto and attend a big celebration with a few other music students from across Canada, and some of those folks I'm still in touch with today, and they're doing amazing things on the Canadian music scene. But Music Counts also, I know, does a lot of great work for high school music programs and gives out instruments and supports folks like yourself. So can't say enough good things about them, and congrats.
Thank you so much, Breagh. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me here on Spartan TV.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
If you love Breagh as much as we did, you can find her music and her social media linked right here.